We are live. Welcome everybody to the Back Catalog Listening Party, your weekly musical happy hour. My name is Anthony Ihrig, one of your hosts. The other host, Ellen Stanley, is still en route from her vacation in Hawaii and couldn't make it today. But we're going to have a wonderful hour with our guest today, Lonesome Dan Kase, everybody.
Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Dan. And who else do we have there today?
We've got Sylvie here.
Sylvie, all right.
Sylvie, she's somewhat new. We got her in July by accident.
Excellent. That we've discovered over all these episodes that as soon as it goes live, the cats and the critters really want to get in front of you in the camera. So
yeah, and this is kind of one of her spaces that she likes to sit. So I kind of figured that would happen anyway.
That's awesome.
My other cat, Addie's right behind me, but she won't, or behind the computer, but she probably won't come out.
Well, that's great. The more the merrier. Speaking of which, it's great to see some of you folks out there already. Connie, hey Connie, in Richfield. Alan in Salt Lake City today. Alan, welcome. And Joe. Joe is sipping a John Prine and watching some wild wind in South Minneapolis. Yeah, it's crazy wind. Is it you getting that over there?
It's crazy over here. Yeah.
All right. Beverly is here with hot coffee. Welcome, Beverly. And this really is some crazy wind around here. And our friend Chris is here as well. It's so good to see all of you here. We were off last week for a rare kind of week off of the show, and I really missed it. And it's great to be back. For those of you who are new to the show, this is a musical happy hour. Every Friday we get together and we listen to music that is in the back catalog of artists' collection. So, things that have been spun around a few times over the years and mean something to people. And we're so excited to have you on, Dan.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is really cool. Yeah, thanks a lot.
And as it is a happy hour, I heard that you were from Michigan, so I went ahead and got a Bell's Porter here just in your honor.
I appreciate that. That's really good beer too. Yeah,
it's tasty. Yeah. Are you partaking in any Friday afternoon beverages?
I actually have white tea. It's Yunnan white tea. So it's jasmine white with some from the Yunnan province.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite teas.
That sounds perfect right now too. It's pretty cold here in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just want to say hello to Jackson, and we have Toby says hi, Dan.
Oh, nice.
All right. All right. It's great to see all of you. And missed you last Friday. Oh, thank you, Jenny. We missed being here, but we're back here today, and we're here with Lonesome Dan Kase. I'm super excited. I was talking to him before the show that I've been kind of involved in the acoustic music scene here in Minneapolis and St. Paul for about 20 years, and I've seen his name on bills and at venues ever since then, starting from about 20 years ago, and it's great to finally meet you. And for those who are out there who might not know your background, your history, what kind of music you play, and what we're going to be listening to today, do you mind just giving a brief bio to put today's album in context?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's great to meet you too, Tony. Yeah, yeah, so I moved to Minneapolis about 20 years ago or so, at end of 2000, I've been playing gigs ever since then. I've been, I kind of landed here and then been playing a lot. I grew up in Michigan, small town in Michigan, and then, I got into old blues when I was about 16 or 17. Started listening to it, and then really wanting to start playing it, like in my early 20s. Spent a lot of time traveling, doing it from about 18. To about 21 or 22, I did a lot of Woody Guthrie and folk stuff and Ramblin' Jack Elliott and that kind of stuff. And then I started finger picking when I was in my early 20s, and that's what really got me kind of more into the old blues. And then met some great players along the way. A guy named Johnny Long out in Colorado, one of my favorite players. Really loved to watch him play. Paul Jeremiah from Rhode Island. So I met some really great players over the years, and just been kind of doing it, mostly what I do is 1920s and 30s old blues and jazz, some ragtime, and that's one of the things I do is I transcribe some old ragtime piano to guitar, and I also write. Obviously, that's kind of my main thing is songwriting, but so it's kind of a combination of listening to old music and traveling and just living my life.
Right on. And the record that we're going to be listening to came out in 2019. Hours Seem Like Days. Had you put out recordings before this one? Where does
I
this one fit
have,
in the catalog?
yeah. So this is the last one I put out. So I'm hoping to do a new one pretty soon in the next 6 months or so. I'm hoping to do like a double album of a bunch of songs I've written. But so this is the last one of, I can't remember how many now. Maybe I think I've maybe put out 4 solo CDs and then about 3 band CDs. So I had a trio for a few years with Matt Yetter and Mikkel Beckman, and we played around a lot, 2002 to like 2006. And then we put out a couple CDs. And then I had a jug band in Denver. I lived in Colorado for about 5 years,
Nice.
and I put out a CD with them. And then, yeah, I think I put out a cassette tape, 97 or 98. That's actually the first one. That was a
Nice.
tribute to my grandpa, one of the songs I wrote. And then,
That's awesome.
yeah. Well, now cassettes are popular again, I guess.
That's right. You could get good money. Now, do you still have some copies of that, like sitting under the couch
You
or the
know,
chair?
I might. I probably only made 50 at a time or something. You know, that was back when he made 50 or 100. And so that might have come out in like, yeah, 98 or something. So, and then, so I think I think this is my 5th solo album. So,
Awesome.
and this is the
Awesome.
only one I've done on vinyl. So it was kind of exciting to do it on vinyl. So.
That's very cool. And we'll be talking a bit about purchasing your own copies of that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But why don't we just start with diving right into the
That'd be
music?
great.
I'm really
Yeah.
excited to hear it and kind of get the weekend started.
Yeah.
The first track that we have queued up here is Hazel's Farewell. Is there anything you want to talk about
Yeah.
this track?
So Hazel was my rabbit that I had. And we adopted her. Well, she sort of showed up in the garden of the place I used to live, and so we just took her in, and so she was my first experience with, actually my only experience with owning and having a companion rabbit.
Is this Hazel by
That's
chance?
Hazel. Yeah.
All right. So, folks who are watching on YouTube, Dan sent a few pictures ahead of the show, and I was so intrigued to hear more about this.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't remember that. It's funny. Yeah, so that every year we would do like Ukrainian eggs with her, you know, like the old school eggs, and we'd take pictures of her. So yeah, she was a really she was a really amazing critter, and she used to wake me up every day with licking my head. She had a thing with licking my head, so every morning I'd wake up with her, and so yeah, so the song was sort of a tribute to her. She passed in 2016. But I actually wrote the song before she passed. It's an instrumental, kind of in the Blind Willie Johnson vein. I mean, nobody can play like him, but in that style.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of where the song came from. Yeah.
That's cool. And this one actually kind of bleeds into the next song. So should
It
we just
does,
maybe,
yeah.
since people are going to hear that, do you want to say anything about Boxwood's
Sure.
Dream?
Yeah, and Boxwood's Dream actually came from, for a very brief period, there was another rabbit entering the house, only for about 5 or 6 days until somebody claimed her. And so this song sort of came from her, because she had been outside. And Boxwood is a character in the book Watership Down.
Oh,
and
cool.
in the book, yeah, Boxwood is a hutch rabbit. You know, she doesn't go outside. I think it's actually a he, but he doesn't go outside, and doesn't get to kind of run around and play with the other rabbits. So that's kind of what the idea was with this was, the idea of just, wanting to be outside and with rabbits especially, they, people buy them for Easter and then they just stick them in their basement and they don't. That's kind of sad. That was kind of it's not an uplifting album.
Well, I just think it's really cool though that you're highlighting animals and rescue animals in particular, which we'll be talking about, I think maybe after we listen to these songs. So
Sure.
awesome. Well, why don't we just give it a listen?
Great.
This is Lonesome Dan Kase, Hazel Farewell into Boxwood's Blues here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
That's actually Addie, Lament.
Oh, all right. Technical difficulties.
Well, that happens.
That happens sometimes. Let's give this a try again. This is Hazel Farewell on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
There we go. nobody care but me. And everybody can run and dance and play, run and dance and play but me. I'm just sitting down, feeling lonely. But everybody has someone to hold, has someone to hold but me. And everybody here, they got shelter from the storm, shelter from the storm but me. I'm just laying down, feeling so cold. But if I could get out of this place, I'd go 1,000 miles away now, out to where the green grass meets the rising sun, and fall into somebody's arms now. Someone to call their own but me. And nobody's sitting there all alone, sitting there all alone but me. I'm just wishing I could be running free. But if I could get out of this place, I'd go 1,000 miles away now, out to where the green grass meets the rising sun, and fall into somebody's arms.
Yeah, that's Boxwood's Dream, preceded by Hazel Farewell from Lonesome Dan Kase here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. We are revisiting his 2019 release, Hours Seem Like Days. And man, that sounded fantastic. Dan.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if I've listened to it since it's been a long time. Obviously, most of us probably don't listen to what we do. So
Yes.
it's interesting hearing it. Yeah. But thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah.
We got a question, maybe referring to the first tune in particular from Joe. Guitar or dobro bottleneck all through? And maybe it could have been either, I guess.
Actually, yeah, it's a resonator. So it's a National M1. So it's a wood-bodied tricone National resonator. So and it is bottleneck. There's some fretting in it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's a little bit of fretting in it, but it's kind of a combination, but it's mostly bottleneck. Yeah.
Right on. And that actually kind of segues nicely into Chris's question. I knew we were going to get a lot of guitar questions today because you're such a fantastic guitar player and you've got lots of really interesting instruments. And Chris wants to know, what are your instruments? Saying that someday he'd like to learn the resonator guitar. What's in your arsenal these days, Dan?
So I've got I've never been a huge collector because I've been a working musician since I was 16. I haven't been able to collect. I've always been sort of whatever I'm playing in that moment is the guitar that I have. So for the last decade, I've had a Kopp, which is a hand-built guitar. A guy named Kevin Kopp, he's out of Montana. So he builds these really cool they're pretty unique guitars. Mine's sort of built off an old Gibson slope-shouldered, so he calls it his K35, so it's kind of like the old J35s. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my main wood body guitar, and then then the National is the resonator is a National M1, so it's a tricone wood body. So, and then before that, I still have my old Trojan National, which is from the mid 30s. But the poor little thing just won't stay in tune anymore. It got to the point in about 2013 where it just had enough. It wanted to be retired, So it sits in the corner now. And but so those are my two main guitars. Actually, they're the only three guitars I have right now. So, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, they sound fantastic. With skilled fingers and. I wondered when you moved here to the Twin Cities. I mean, we've had some great guitar players on our show, like Dakota Dave and Charlie Parr, and there's kind of this this history here in Minneapolis with great kind of blues guitar players and Kerner, Ray, and Glover,
Yeah,
and all that
absolutely.
West Bank scene. And I'm just curious if that's what brought you here, or did you have run-ins with any of these kind of legendary figures here in the kind
It's
of
funny.
music
Yeah.
scene?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, it's funny because when I heard of Spider John when I was probably 17 growing up in Michigan, just kind of randomly. I think I found him I think maybe I heard a song on the radio. That's how I discovered blues in a way was there was a show out of Ann Arbor and they would have a blues show every Sunday. It was called the Blues Cruise. And I think it was 3 hours, and the 2.5 hours was more electric blues, but they'd always do a half an hour of acoustic blues, and that's what
Nice.
I first heard it. Yeah, and that's when I heard Robert Johnson and Reverend Gary Davis and all the greats, and then from there I discovered other guys. But I think Spider John was either played on there or I heard him somehow. But yeah, so he was somebody I really wanted to meet when I moved here. So yeah, when I lived in Colorado, I thought, how cool will that be to go to a bar and see like Dave Ray
Right.
and Spider John and these guys that I really looked up to. So yeah, it was a huge, awesome thing when I moved here. It wasn't necessarily why I moved. I mean, I moved here partly because things had gotten slow in Denver, and I kept hearing good things about Minneapolis, so that was partly why. But it
Yeah.
was definitely a bonus that there were these great players here, and
Yeah, well, you fit right into that kind of tradition of great, especially fingerstyle guitar players, and it sounds really good. And as someone who, I own a guitar, I play banjo normally, so so I
okay,
like this idea of moving my fingers around, and I own a guitar, but I kind of fake my way through it. There's a real art to this fingerstyle guitar player you're playing where you hear, it almost sounds like there's two instruments playing at once. You got like a bass
sure,
line going and you got a
yep,
melody line going. And knowing when you started, that was around when I was starting. This is pre YouTube, and it wasn't
yeah,
really
oh yeah.
easy to figure out how to play some of these more obscure instruments like banjo and fingerstyle guitar.
Sure, yeah.
How did you learn this stuff? Was it just transcription? Did you have instructors?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because I do think it is interesting with YouTube because I'm sort of glad in a way that we came up age when we did because I feel like there's so much misinformation, on YouTube and stuff, and I feel like you just have to
Great.
trust your ear, and that's the thing that you learn to do when you're learning from records or from someone else. So yeah, for me it was just literally just listening to old scratchy records, and like the Blind Lemon stuff was really hard because it's you can barely hear it. So there's a lot of listening, and you really learn how to use your ear that way. So I'm really glad that I learned that way. So yeah, it was mostly that. I've had some really good. I've had some really. I haven't taken. I mean, I took lessons when I was just first kind of starting out, but that was kind of it. I'm mostly self-taught,
Hmm.
but I've had some really good. I've had some really good lessons over the years. Dakota Dave was really helpful in pointing out some stuff that I needed to work on, and
Yeah.
which was great. And then just seeing other people live. So I've been fortunate to watch some really just really amazing players, and learn from them. But mostly it's sitting by your old cassette player,
Yeah.
and listening to these old records. And I mean that's how I discovered open G tuning. I didn't even know. I
Mhm.
just messed around with it till I realized like, oh, he's not in standard tuning. He must be in an open
Right.
tuning, which I didn't even know what it was. Because especially where I grew up, there was no record stores or music stores. There was no access to that kind of stuff. So you learn you make a lot of mistakes along the way, but it teaches you a lot too.
Yeah, you really internalize it when you have to kind of go through the thought process of how do you even make those sounds, like especially in a different tuning. That's kudos to you for figuring that out. It's kind of along these same lines. We got a great question here from Ken Sherman, a great musician here
Oh
in the
yeah,
Twin Cities. Been a
yeah.
long
Hey,
time, Dan. He
Central,
says,
okay.
how did you get your introduction to the country blues? For me, it was some Folkways albums back in the '60s. Ways albums back.
Yeah, those are great albums. Yeah, I collect those. I collect those and Yazoo and some other records. Um, yeah, so for me, it was just what I said earlier. Of just a radio show I listened to, and that was pretty much how I discovered it. They played Reverend Gary Davis, because I remember, I mean, because every Sunday I would record it. So I'd have these half-hour segments of this amazing music. So the first couple of times I think I heard like Henry Thomas and Reverend Gary Davis, and so that's kind of how I discovered this music. And then from there it was just trying to find it on record. And Ann Arbor was actually a good resource. Ann Arbor's got some great record stores, and where I grew up was maybe an hour and a half south of Ann Arbor, hour and 40 minutes. So as I got older, I started going there and, you know, and shopping for records. So that's kind of how I got into it, just sort of randomly. You know, it wasn't something I grew up with or anything.
It called to you. It spoke to you.
It pretty much at first. Like, I mean, yeah, the Bulldoze Blues by Henry Thomas was the first song I remember like catching my soul. That was like this is something that I need to learn.
Bulldoze Blues, was it?
Yeah, Bulldoze
All
Blues.
right.
Yeah,
Well, we'll link to that in the show notes if we can find it. That's cool. Always here to hear the spark, you know, that ignited your passion, and now you're adding to the repertoire of country blues music, and I think it'd be a great time to dive back into the album and hear some of that where that inspiration went. So the next tune we have lined up here is Dark Days. Anything you want to say about this one before we?
This is actually about a dog that I knew when I was a kid, and just this dog was a friend of mine, and this dog used to live out in the country. Well, that's where my friend lived, and I used to go visit him, and I'd stay the night. And they had this beautiful dog, but nobody ever paid attention to it. It just sat outside in this pen. And every time I would come over, the dog would get really excited because I love dogs and animals. And I just always felt so sorry for the dog. I don't know why they had it, but so it was just something that's always been in my mind. And I wanted to write a song about her. And then it just seemed like the right time to do it, you know? So, and yeah, just a sweet dog that was not, didn't have a lot of love in her life.
Well, that's so awesome that you're honoring the dog with this song. This is Lonesome Dan Kase, Dark Days, on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I was born into this cold world with the sadness all around. Born into this cold world, Lord, with the sadness all around. It was winter time when the snow was on the ground. When I first came to this place, I thought everything would be alright. When I first came to this place, I thought everything would be alright. But I soon found out that my day was dark and night. Cause it don't seem like nobody, Lord, nobody even knows I'm here. Don't seem like nobody, Lord, nobody even knows I'm here. My hours seem like days, no one, Lord, feel my care. Cause I'm hungry at midnight and I'm starving just a while for day. Hungry at midnight and I'm starving just a while for day. If I had to win, oh Lord, I'd fly away. Now you know my story, Lord. Now you know my song. Now you know my story, Lord. Now you know my song. Well, I cry, oh Lord, and I'm sinking down.
Lonesome Dan Kase, Dark Days, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. We are revisiting his 2019 release, Hours Seem Like Days. And, hearing that song before the show and then hearing that song after, knowing that it was kind of through the eyes of this animal that was neglected, and it really kind of it changes my perspective on it, but yet it even almost cuts even deeper.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
When I hear that, I'd love to know about your connection with these animals, and I think that there's so much to unpack there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that. Yeah, and I do. I mean, I agree. Like when you know something behind a song, it can really help. It's kind of like the kind of music that both of us play. You sort of have to see it live. People will say like, I've heard your music and I like it, but when I saw you play, I really appreciated it more because there's something physical about the actual music.
Mm-hmm.
That's so it's kind of along the same lines. It's nice to know like the background of something. But yeah, with animals, I think I've always loved animals, and I think that I've just always felt like kind of a connection to them. So as I've gotten older, I just maybe have more of a connection to them,
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's something so magical about them, and they put you in the moment. They're so good for calming, and not that that's their job, but they're just good at it, and I just think that they're just it's like having plants in your house, it's like they bring oxygen. It's like
Mm-hmm.
animals are just great to have in your life because they're just wonderful, So,
Yeah. Yeah, and you can empathize with their condition, and their condition is just like ours.
Absolutely,
And
yeah,
that's why I can hear
absolutely.
that song now in two different ways.
Yeah.
And okay, so for those of you who are watching this live, you probably noticed this amazing artwork that so
Hmm.
far, Hazel Farewell, Boxwood's Dream, Dark Days, all three songs now are actually depicted in this cool illustration. I'd love to hear more about this illustration, the artist behind it, and how that came about.
Yeah, so I tried to find my record, and all my records are in alphabetical order. So somehow I let somebody borrow it or something because it wasn't there. But I sort of had the idea from a Memphis Jug Band record with that has these little circles on for each song. It's kind of where I got
Yeah.
the idea, and then so yeah, it was just sort of this idea that I had that each song could have a little picture to represent. So I'm like I'm not even like an art. I'm so bad with my hands, as far as like doing any kind of artwork. So I scribbled like kind of what I was thinking of each kind of bubble to my friend Shelley Rolfe, who was the one that did them, and these were basically like one takes. I mean, she nailed these like almost to a T, the first time that she drew them. So they're really amazing. So all the credit goes to Shelley. I just kind of gave her like a little bit of an idea of what each one I kind of wanted to represent, and then she just nailed it. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at that puppy there while we were listening to the last track, and it just like it connected, with the music.
well, yeah, and how she was able to like. I love the Boxwood's Dream, how it has this kind of look on its face, and it just has the rabbits in the background playing. I mean, it just that's my favorite part of the album. Like I said, I haven't listened to it since I recorded it, but I love the artwork, and I just love what she did so much, and Brian Hansen was also really involved in helping get it like all the digital layout and stuff. So both Shelley and Brian were huge in the project.
Right on.
So
And there's actually a back cover here, which may be a little precursor to what we're going to be
yeah,
seeing later, but I
yeah,
wanted people to
absolutely.
see that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what so those were kind of the idea that I had for yeah. And I just
Yeah.
think she did a
Well,
really great job.
Sandra says I so enjoy your connection to animals in your music, and I think that really is just something that was just took me completely by surprise, but made me appreciate all this music in such a different way.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate that. Yeah.
we're at about the half hour mark. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is the Back Catalog Listening Party, a weekly happy hour where we revisit old albums and dive in. It's like live liner notes.
Yeah.
And today we're hanging out with Lonesome Dan Kase talking about his 2019 record, Hours Seem Like Days. And for those of you who are enjoying this, I bet you would like to add this album to your collection. And Dan, you've got some copies at home, don't you?
I do. Yep. Yeah. So if you just send me, and you can send me an email to my email, which is lonesomedankase@yahoo.com, and I can send you one in the mail. Yeah. I don't have any up on streaming right now, and that's sort of, I will do that at some point.
Old school, folks. Yeah. So if I put it in the comments. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can check it there. You can just click on it on his website too. I posted that as well, where there's a contact form. But just send him an email. Say, I really would like this album. Did I see you had a copy with you?
I do. Yeah. Yep.
You want to show it off to the folks so they can see what they'd be getting? Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's gorgeous.
Yeah. And it's a 10-inch because there's 6 songs on it. So it's a 10-inch, so it's a regular 33, but yeah.
Awesome. That would look great in everybody's collection. So highly recommend just sending Dan an email. Tell him that you appreciate his music.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he'll set you up. When we talked before the show, there wasn't necessarily a fancy online store or anything like that. So it's old school.
I know. I
love
need
it.
to get one of those. Well, and actually, if somebody could send me an email on Facebook too, Messenger, that works. I mean, some people are on Messenger too. So any kind of way you want to get a hold of me is fine.
That's great. Well, maybe also we should say you're out playing music again,
and that's where I
you
sell
have copies
most of
with
them.
you, right?
Yeah, yep, and that's where I sell most of them, obviously, or just at shows. Yep, and actually, it's funny because I'd wanted to do a vinyl forever. I mean, because obviously, being a record collector, I'd always wanted to put out a vinyl, but it never really would have. Like 10 years ago, nobody would really bought it except like people like us.
Yeah.
But now everybody, like, people want to buy it, so I feel like it's and there's a download card in it for people that you want to use it for that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Best of both worlds, folks.
Yeah. So it seemed like a good time to finally actually put out an album when people would buy it. So yeah.
Right on. Well, the email's in the comments, or you can click on his website and hit his contact form up, and maybe better yet, go see him play. Anything coming up in the Twin Cities, anyways, for folks
I'm
around
trying
town?
to think in the Twin Cities. Yeah, I've got Sociable Cider Works, I think next Wednesday, the 26th, and then I haven't. I'm mostly out of town. It seems like I haven't had quite as many gigs in town. I know I'm at the White Squirrel in St. Paul.
Oh yeah,
in March.
Had a few guests there.
Yeah, I haven't played there yet. I'm excited about it. Yeah. And then I'm at the Dubliner, so I have some things coming up, but
all right. Well, head on over to lonesomedan.com. You can find out where he's playing, and if you're not in the Twin Cities and you want to order the CD, you can just send him a message through his website or the email that's in the comments, and get yourself a copy of this amazing record. I love that it's also on vinyl. I think that's fantastic.
I was excited about it. Yeah, and it was kind of a long process because there are not many places that do 10 inches.
Yeah,
and so I had to send it out to a place, I think in Memphis or Nashville.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, but it was cool. Yeah. I was gonna say one other thing I forgot to mention, that my friend Jesse Nelson is the guy that's on percussion, and he's on, I think, 2 tracks on it. He's on the one we just listened to, and then he's on the last one, and he's amazing percussionist. And plays with a few people, plays with his own band, The Road Home with his band, and he's an amazing percussionist, a good friend of mine, but he really adds to the album a lot. So
it's I feel like the best percussionists, you almost barely notice they're enhancing everything else, and that was what my read from listening to this record. It's just like kind of propping up the guitar and the vocals and stuff. So.
Yeah, Jesse's really good at understanding every moment, which is hard as a musician. Even the best of us, get overzealous at times, and Jesse's always in the pocket. He's amazing. Yeah.
And are there any other musicians on this album?
No, just the 2 of us. Yeah.
Just the 2 of you.
Just the 2 of us, and I don't know. Like the next one I do, I'm not sure if I'm going to have more. I mean, it might just be an all solo one. Maybe have Jesse on a couple of tracks again. And I play with Mikkel Beckman a lot, so I've recorded with him, so he might be on a track or 2. Everyone knows Mikkel.
He's
with everyone.
Another amazing percussionist, and backs up a lot of the guests we've had on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, we got a ringing endorsement here from Jackson, who says of this album, one of the greatest folk records to come out of Minneapolis.
Wow, that's awesome. I appreciate that, Jackson. Thanks a lot.
Right on. Well, I think we need to hear another track off this great record here. So why don't we dive into the next one? And this is the one that I believe I started a little prematurely earlier. This is Addie's Lament.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about this?
So yeah, Addie's my cat that you didn't see, that's Sylvie. But Addie. I adopted her from a family that had rescued her from their family farm. So she sort of rescued twice. I mean, I didn't really rescue her from them. They just adopted her out. But yeah, so it was just about and it's also about my old cat Winnie. So it's sort of about two cats, because Winnie was a shelter cat, and so the song actually kind of started out about her, and then it kind of morphed into being about Addie too. But yeah, it's also just about a shelter cat who I've always thought it was interesting with animals, because we don't know how they register time. It's like that classic thing. Like, I mean, you come home after an hour and the dog is happier to see you than if you've been gone for 2 days.
Yeah.
So we don't know how they register time. So I've just always thought that's kind of interesting. So this song is just kind of about like this animal feeling like it's been a really long time that it's been in this shelter, and that's Addie.
Okay, yeah. So, those watching, Dan had sent a picture of a cat in a guitar case. It looks like.
Yeah.
That's what a sweetie.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's give this a listen. I'll get that album artwork back up there, and we'll take a listen to Addie's Lament. This is Lonesome Dan Kase here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
How long you been waiting down here all alone? I don't know now, Daddy, I don't know. I don't know now, Daddy, I don't know. But I feel like it's been a long, long time ago. I feel like it's been a long, long time. Here beneath these stairs, I don't know now, Daddy, I don't know. I don't know, Pop, I don't know, Lord, but I feel like it's been a long, long time ago. I feel like it's been a long, long time. Outside this man's door, I don't know, my Daddy, I don't know. I don't know, Pop, I don't know, Lord, but I feel like it's been a long, long time ago. I feel like it's been a long, long time. To feel his loving hand, I don't know, my Daddy, I don't know. I don't know, Daddy, I don't know, Lord, but I feel like it's been a long, long time ago. I feel like it's been a long, long time.
Lonesome Dan Kase, Addie's Lament here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Sounds so good. Some fantastic fingerstyle guitar playing. Kurt says it doesn't get much better than this. I agree.
Thanks,
such a soothing sound. It feels so good as we roll into the weekend. And speaking of that kind of fingerstyle guitar playing, a couple people were reminded of other famous guitar players, Leo Kottke being one, and Mississippi John Hurt being the other. Is there a little bit of Kottke and Hurt floating around in there?
I haven't actually. It was funny, being in Minneapolis. I should have, but I haven't heard a lot of Leo Kottke. Just a little bit here and there. So I can't say that for sure, but I know that he's an amazing player from what I've heard. But yeah, I mean, Mississippi John Hurt's more where I'm coming from in terms of that. Yeah, absolutely one of my favorites. So yeah, Mississippi John Hurt and Blind Lemon and that style, is kind of more the John Hurt, Elizabeth Cotten alternating bass pattern. I think of that to me almost sounds more like a bluegrass song.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it sounds more like the old time feel. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mississippi John Hurt's just one of my favorites. So definitely.
Yeah, he's one of those folks that will kind of get people into the genre, maybe if they'd never heard it before. You hear him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's kind of transcendent in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's amazing because he's Mississippi John Hurt, and when you think of Mississippi blues, it's not what you think of when you think of that. People think Delta blues and the hard blues, and so that's what's so cool about his. I mean, there were other guys that came out of Mississippi that weren't heavy like that, but I just feel like that's the traditional sound you think of as the Delta blues, Son House, and Charlie Patton, and all those greats. So it's just like right alongside, you had a guy that sounded like he came out of 1870. I mean, it's just amazing,
Yeah. Well, speaking of kind of geography, do you ever make it down to the Southland, where some of this music came from? And then how do you go over down there, being kind of a guy from the North playing this style? How do you make it down there, and how are you received?
I have actually the mug I was using is from Mississippi. It's actually the only petrified forest east of the Mississippi River. I camped there. It's really cool. It's actually down by where Skip James is from, Bentonia, Mississippi. And yeah, I have been down there. I haven't played as much as I'd like to down there. Just being up here and then out in Colorado. I've been more west, I guess, and Midwest. I went down to Birmingham and I did some gigs down on the Gulf Coast this was like maybe 10, 15 years ago. So I have done several gigs down there, but I've never done enough to really get much of a feel. I feel like the guy that booked me down in Fairhope was just excited about Bob Dylan. So they hear you for a minute, and I was like, I don't play Bob Dylan, but that was so. It was more like there's definitely obviously roots down there, but I think you have to go further into the hills, maybe.
Sure. Well, are you one of those folks that kind of get into the historical sites and stuff? Like, do you go find so and so's like a childhood porch or whatever and play guitar on it?
Yeah, sometimes I do. I mean, when I was down there this last time, I did play guitar like at midnight in a graveyard. That was done by Robert
That's
Johnson.
what I'm talking about. All right, good. So you are, yeah.
I do some of that. And for a while I was doing like the graves. Like taking pictures of graves. I haven't been doing that the last several years, but no, I do love visiting historical sites and I actually went to see. I should have sent you this picture, but I went to see Dockery's farm, which is where Charlie Patton lived. And that was actually really emotional for me because I had been through that part of Mississippi a few times in my life, but up until I think this was 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I went through there, and that was one of the first images that I had when I was 16 or 17 of Mississippi blues. Is this kind of famous Dockery Farms picture of a white barn, it's a white water tower or something that has Dockery Farms. And so seeing that in person was pretty cool and actually pretty emotional because it's it had been 30 years since I first saw it, almost. So so I definitely like to visit historical sites, for sure.
I think that's one of the great things about like folks like you who are kind of keeping these traditions going. I see this a lot in like old time music too, where it's the I reckon you probably tell a few stories from stage about where these songs came from and the people who were doing it, and kind of pay homage to this history. And it's like continuing the oral history, which is always what music has done. It's always been, keeping those stories alive and keeping that thread alive. So I think that's really cool.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's why it's really cool when you talk about this being sort of like liner notes. It's really cool because that's the one thing that we're really missing with YouTube and stuff, and getting music digitally, that you can't. It's like you're missing all the history, all the knowledge, and yeah, you can find it, but there's nothing like bringing a record home and learning about it. And that's just something that's kind of been lost. And I feel like that. Just knowing the history of it, there's so much more to music than just playing it. Anybody can learn how to play a song. Anybody can become a good guitar player. I think it's what goes beyond that. It goes into the delving into it and living it and learning it. I think that's the key to me, with music. And I think that, and yeah, like with liner notes, I mean, like I said, that's like one thing always led to another. It's like, well, who's Robert Johnson? Well, who's Muddy Waters? And that's just how you learn. But you just can't get that with videos. So.
Well, I'd like to think there's some kids out there that are starting with Lonesome Dan and working their way back.
That'd be cool. I would love
I'm
that.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is the case, and I think that's great. So maybe it's be another opportunity to let folks know, if you want to hear the history, want to hear these cool things, you got to go see Dan. Play live, and we have his website scrolling here on the screen. It's lonesomedan.com. I think that's probably the best way to really to get the full experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, like I said, it's such a lot. Well, this music is such a live music, that it's like I've been listening to these albums for so long, and then like you think about like how amazing they would have been to see in person, because some of these guys got like Blind Lemon Jefferson got kind of pigeonholed as a blues player because that's what was selling records, but he did so much a wide variety of music. It would have been cool if they'd have just let him record whatever he wanted,
Right.
And and just hear these guys play live would have been amazing. Yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, Chris jumped in and said, I think there's some folks watching right now that have busked in NOLA. That might be fun to maybe to discuss. Is that something you've done, Dan?
I did a lot of busking when I lived in Colorado. Yeah, I kind of made a living that way, really, when I was, from the time I was, 18 till 21. I mean, I pretty much busked from all the way from Ann Arbor, New Mexico, Colorado, California, all out west. I did a lot of busking. Yeah. Actually, when I first moved here, it's so funny. I paid rent for 2 months and I had literally one dime. I had one dime left, like the song.
Oh, and, I hope, that's a song right now you've written, I hope.
No, it was actually a song by Blind Lemon Jefferson called One Dime Blues. It's an old famous song. So, I busked on the Nicollet Mall when I first moved here. But I didn't do that very long. I started picking up gigs pretty quickly. So for me, it's always been, busking was fun, but for me, it was always kind of more of a means to an end. I mean, in New Orleans, it's definitely like a really cool tradition, just like it is in Europe. Unfortunately, other places in the world, it's not. In the United States, it's not so much. So it's not always that pleasant.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
When you're part of a community and that supports that, it's really cool. But when you're not, it's not that great.
Yeah, but it's also it's oftentimes like the first step for a lot of kind of emerging artists and people that are out there who have no other choice but to play music. And you seem like one of those kind of people, Dan.
Well, yeah, I kind of am, and I kind of was, and it kind of teaches you how to deal with a lot of the stuff you're going to deal with when you go inside too. I mean, you get all kinds of crazy stuff outside. So, you're going to learn how to deal with some of the yahoos.
Yeah. I know all about those folks. Well, I want to make sure we get to as much music as we can. We have another song ready to go here. Where Do I Go Now? Anything you want to say about this track?
So this one, I'll try to keep it quick. This was so I wrote this song. This comes from another song from the perspective of a pet, critter, a cat or a dog or a rabbit. And I wrote the song one night. I got back it was a super cold out night, and I slid my car. I was on 169 and I slid off the road and took out 2 signs.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I remember and my first thought was what would happen to my cat, if I died? I don't care about anything else, my hands and my cat, and So then I thought, like, from the perspective of an animal, like if you didn't make it home that night, you know, like what would they do, you know? So that's the you know, the little critters person doesn't make it home that night, and they're just kind of wondering
Where
where
do I
they
go
go.
now?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, everybody, I want you to get in the eyes of that poor creature as you listen to this track here from Lonesome Dan Kase. This is Where Do I Go Now on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Well, I've been down now. Yes, and I've been so blue since I said goodbye to you. Now where do I go now? Now that I'm all alone without you to help me on. Where do I go? It's so cold in this place. Can't hide hurt from my face. My heart is heavy, Lord, here today, Lord. Well, I've been through thick and thin. Yeah, things about to get bad again. Well, I'm throwing up a sign, Lord, it's a sign. Send me down a friend. Send me down a friend like me. It's so cold in this place. Can't hide the hurt from my face. My heart is heavy, Lord, here today, Lord. Well, I've been through thick and thin. I sure have. Yeah, things about to get bad again. Well, I'm throwing up a sign, Lord, it's a sign. Send me down a friend. Throwing up a sign, Lord, well, it's a sign.
All right. That's Lonesome Dan Kase. Where do I go now? And I agree with Sandra here. Gorgeous guitar playing, Lonesome Dan.
Well, thanks, Andrew.
It sounds
I appreciate that.
sounds so good. Where did you record this
Oh, I should mention
album?
that too. Yeah, it was actually recorded at Wild Sound.
Oh yeah.
Steve Call. Yeah. So
They
yeah,
got the
he's
best
great.
sounds.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, I should have mentioned that earlier, but yeah, Steve did an amazing job, and it was just a really easy. Everything was mostly live, and we did a couple kind of clipping things together, but mostly a live recording. So yeah, he just did a great job. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
sounds so good. And they have one of the best mic lockers anywhere,
Yeah,
and it
they
really
really do.
captures that. So for those of you who aren't like, listening to the high res version on headphones, then you better send Dan an email. Let him know that you want to order this on vinyl. I think it's so cool. Can you show it one more time? I want folks to see this.
I can.
It's so,
I can also. I'll pull out the actual record too, which is pretty cool.
yeah. I would love to see it.
The actual record.
Look at that. That could be yours, folks. Just send Dan an email and let him know. And I bet you he would even sign it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe get a little paw print from Addie or somebody on there.
Yeah.
I love it.
Kitty autograph.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so special to hear the backstory on this stuff because it really, it really makes you think and, points out how we need each other, whether it's, human to human or animals and humans.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny too, because when the whole thing was going on with the kids at the border that were stuck at the border, there was so much that I remember. I think Jesse said that he was like, your songs are even more prevalent, like these particular, like Addie's Lament and ones that were, and it's like I didn't think about them as being in human form, but then when you think about it, it's like, yeah, they obviously could be, and it's just one of those things where when that was going on, it just felt like, it's, So I agree. We all need each other, and it's So I hope that is more timeless than So
it is, and that's what good art is. It means more than one thing, and it helps remind us what's important. And what's important right now is trying to get to this last track because this is the whole album, right? Like it's just six songs.
6 songs. Yep.
So normally we do 5 songs on the show, but do you have a little extra time? Could we get to that 6th song? Can we hang out?
Sure. Yeah.
I'd love to just listen to the whole thing.
Absolutely,
Before we go here, so the last tune is Lagomorph Boogie, and that must be a rabbit reference.
Lagomorph? So Lagomorph is the rabbit. Yeah, so rabbits belong to the order of Lagomorpha. For years, I guess they thought they were rodents, and then now they have their own genus. But this is the one song on the album that's kind of up tempo and fun and like more of just kind of like ends kind of on a happy note. I didn't think about that necessarily at the time, but then when I was putting the songs together, I thought, maybe let's end it on like an upbeat, nice, not such a depressing note of somebody dying in a car crash.
Right. The last poor cat was crying because you were gone. I imagine these rabbits are kind of cutting the rug.
Rabbits are happy, and and it's actually originally an instrumental. So the next record I do, I'm going to have probably Lagomorph Boogie as an instrumental. So that's how I wrote it. But then I wrote words to it. Actually, I was in Europe at the time, and I just wanted to come up with some words for it to make it so I could sing it. And then that's kind of how it came about. So. To end on a positive note.
I love it. That's perfect, and it's a great way to kind of cap off this wonderful hour. Again, we're here with Lonesome Dan Kase. We've been listening to his 2019 release, Hours Seem Like Days, and we're going to close out the hour with the Lagomorph Boogie. So you can just picture the bunnies boogieing down here. All dancing. Right, let's do it.
Well, you boogie to the left, you boogie to the right, you boogie once more than it's really out of sight. You do the Lagomorph Boogie now. You do the Lagomorph Boogie, twisting, hopping on out long. Well, you don't know how to do it, I'll show you how it's done. Put down your foot and then pretend you're gonna run. You do the Lagomorph Boogie, yeah, the boogie woogie now. You do the Lagomorph Boogie, twisting, hopping on out long. Go ahead, the boogie now. Yeah. Talk. Yeah, man. Well, first you move your head, then you move your feet. But then you really know that Lagomorph beat. You do the Lagomorph Boogie. Yeah, the boogie woogie now. You do the Lagomorph Boogie, twisting, hopping on out long. Well, you stop to the left, you stop to the right. Well, you're thumping and you're grunting and you're hopping on out. Do the Lagomorph Boogie, here I go now. Yeah, the boogie woogie now. You do the Lagomorph Boogie, twist and hop on out long. Do the boogie woogie now. You better do that boogie woogie now, Mr. Lonesome, cause I'm pumping the gun myself now. Boogie woogie. Yeah. Man. just about to break a day. Lonesome Dan and the hoppers hollering, get up on your way and do the Lagomorph Boogie. Yeah, the boogie woogie now. You do the Lagomorph Boogie, twist and hop it all night long. You do the Lagomorph Boogie, twist and hop it all night long. Last time for the boogie now. You do the Lagomorph Boogie, twist and hop it all night. That's the boogie now, folks.
All right, folks. Lonesome Dan Kase, the Lagomorph Boogie here. Yeah, people are loving it. Really fun show, says Kurt. An excellent way to end a Friday workday, says Sandra. And yeah, this has been so much fun. This is Lonesome Dan Kase here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. This is his album, Hours Seem Like Days. Joni says, so fun to hear this album again. I love having it. You can have it too. You can email Dan and
Thanks, Joni.
And get that. And we just want to thank you for spending an hour with us here, Dan. This has been so much fun.
No, this has been super fun. Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's really cool. Yeah.
It's been great to listen. I know Ellen Stanley, who is my co-host, is really, really bummed that she could not make it. She's coming. She got stuck on her way back from Hawaii, so I'm not feeling terrible because she was just enjoying some wonderful weather. But I know she would have loved to have been here. So on behalf of Ellen, thank you, and I want to thank every one of you out there who hung out with us. A lot of you have been
thanks for listening.
Being here for the whole hour. This is what it's all about. We started this, when the pandemic started, 2 years ago now, and realized that music is just has a special way to bring people together, and this kind of music, especially this roots music, and
absolutely
everything kind of it's what it's all about. So so thanks.
It's a really cool series. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And I want to give a special shout out to our Patreon community. There's some folks there that believed in the show, even when things started opening up, and allow us to keep doing this. Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, the Homestead Pick and Parlor, and I almost missed the last few here, so I'm going to let it roll through. It was Severin, Lynn, Craig, and Jake, our latest. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. If you're interested in being a member of the Patreon community, I'll scroll that next. It's just patreon.com/Back Catalog Listening Party. Basically, you guys help keep this show running by helping us pay for the technology end of it, the website. And then what we do is we also have like exclusive little, after parties with guests, and we put on concerts and happy hours and things like that after the show. And we so appreciate our patrons. Thank you. But most of all, we appreciate all of you for hanging out with us. If you like the show, you're probably on YouTube, give it a thumbs up. It helps the YouTube algorithm send more people to Lonesome Dan Kase, who is going to be working on a YouTube channel, right?
Yes, that's my next thing. Yes.
Yep, we were talking about that. So, but for now, we want more people to know who he is and what he's doing, and you can subscribe to the channel too if you're interested in knowing who's coming up. We are approaching episode 100, which is a super big deal. I didn't think we would make it past episode 10.
Wow.
And we have a pretty special guest lined up. Our Patreon folks know who that is. But we're really excited about episode 100. We want to thank everybody who got us this far. But tune in next week as well, and the week after. And we're just so happy that you all support independent music. So thank you for being here. Thanks, Lonesome Dan, one more time. And cheers.
Anthony.
We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.
On the Back Catalog List.